Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, April 6, 2020. This is the Student Support Zoom Initiative video. I just want to share some information just to remind everyone who's watching this at home that the Student Assistance Program is still happening. It's still available for students 24/7. And in fact, I'm going to show you a nice little screen that will give us some extra information. So as you're looking at the screen, what you'll notice outside of the videos of everyone participating is this is the main student support website. To get there, you just have to type in ubolt.edu/student support, and you're going to notice a couple things on your left-hand side. First and foremost, you're going to notice the Student Assistance Program link right here for general information about the Student Assistance Program, how to contact it, how to get on the mobile site, and also the website. You can click on this link right here. Underneath of it, in this blue box, you're going to see something that says the Compass Case Management Submission Form. And that is a form that we use to help make referrals to the Student Assistance Program for anyone that might need some extra assistance during this difficult time. I know there's been a lot of changes that everyone has been experiencing on a whole host of areas, not just with their academics, but in their life in general as we are adjusting to the COVID-19 crisis. Please know that we're here to support you in a whole host of different ways and not just with the Student Assistance Program. So if you or someone you know in your classes is showing signs of distress or has just shared some things that are concerning to you, please feel free to make the Compass Case Management Submission Form. And to do so, you would just simply click it and fill it out and then hit submit, and it'll come to our office and we'll follow up from there. Now, this form is available to be done anonymously, but the information in this form is not confidential, so please understand that. We have a couple guests here today. So to my left, I think on my video, but might be different on the screen, is we have the Associate Director of Student Support, Mr. Pavan Purswani.
Gotcha. So I get to follow up the guy who sounds like he has a teleprompter. My name's Pavan Purswani. I'm the Associate Director for Student Support, like Tony mentioned. And today we're just going to be having a conversation with some questions that Tony and I created to get some insight from some other folks around the campus on how folks are managing, what advice they have, etc. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole to allow her to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Marano, and I oversee the Division of Student Success and Support Services at the University of Baltimore. And I am here to answer any questions, talk a little bit about what we've been doing as far as an institution about converting all of our services and classes online to that type of environment. But before I go too much into that, I'd like Ms. Schulz, Dr. Schulz, to go ahead and introduce herself.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. Good morning. I'm Karyn Schulz. I'm the Director of the Disability Access Services Office and here to support our students register with our courses, with our office, as well as any students who may need our support but have not registered with us. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I'll share my information once it's my turn to come back on.
Okay, so with that, we can kind of delve into our first question. And the way this will work is either Tony or I will ask a question, and since I'm asking this one, Tony, you can feel free to answer this question as well, along with the other two folks in the room. So first question, what resources do you think it's most important that UB students be aware of right now, kind of given the work that's happening remotely?
Sure, I'll take the first question. I definitely think the Student Assistance Program is the hot resource right now for our students. And I won't go into too many details because Tony did a wonderful job at providing an overview of that service. I also will say academic advising right now because we are in the beginning stages of registration for the fall semester, and we continue to register for the summer semester. I would also say that the Disability and Access Services Office, which Karyn can talk a little bit about, is extremely important right now, as well as the Career and Internship Center. We have a lot of programming that we've converted given the pandemic situation that we're in. And so if you've lost a job, if you're struggling with finding a job, we have resources for you to help you navigate this difficult time searching for a job.
I would just add on to that, your UB email address is definitely an important resource, so please keep a close eye on that because a lot of information that either the Student Assistance Program, Office of Student Support, or other offices that have been adding resources, supports, and things like for students have been coming out through the UB email addresses. And some of those specifically have been the Be Ready resource that was put together by the library's academic success team, as well as general links to the COVID-19 response for the university, which has a whole host of resources and links to different things for not only just traditional students, but students with children as well. And including that is like some links for a child's book to help explain the situation for parents.
Okay, and speaking from the disability services world, our webpage, when you land on the landing page at disabilities, has information about note-taking services and other things that we've been pulling together in regards to moving from a in-person learning environment to a online learning environment. And please know that both Maria and I are working at home, and we are trying our best to get to your emails and your questions as soon as possible. And we're starting to hear from some of your instructors about how best to support you in the learning environment, because this is new for them as well. And we're connecting with them and putting them at ease and hopefully putting you at ease. I'd want to echo back to what Tony mentioned before with the Be Ready from the academic success team at the library. There's a wealth of information, a tutoring, writing consultation, academic coaching is also going online. So they're available to continue to support you even though we're not physically on campus. So please reach out as you need to find some kind of help. We are here to help you.
Gotcha. And my resource, go ahead, Nicole.
Please know that all of the resources you typically would go to, whether that be the Student Assistance Program, Disability and Access Services, Career Center, Bob Parsons Veteran Center, we are all up and running virtually. So please don't hesitate to contact us. If you were on campus and you were going to contact us for something, please reach out to us in the same manner and just via email. So I just want to make sure you realize that we have services here to help you. Pavan.
Gotcha. No, I was going to say, I'm going to break the rules and actually answer the question that I asked as well. And I'm going to, this is where it's hard because I always forget about the mirroring effect. But so Tony and the Compass case management system as well. So the Student Assistance Program gives you access to a mental health professional that has confidential conversations, but maybe you're looking for support beyond that. And like maybe you lost your job or any number of the things that are happening right now. The case management program that Tony helps manage is pretty extraordinary, and he is very knowledgeable about resources. And so like he talked about when we got on the call, all you need to do is submit a form or reach out to Tony to get involved or get connected with that. And so that would be the one that I would throw in there as well.
So that kind of leads me into our next question. In general, what is everyone doing to help center or ground themselves in this time of great uncertainty?
I am taking an extra walk every day. I typically tend to walk a fair amount, but I'm finding myself needing to take a break in the middle of the day away from the computer because I have about 6 to 7 hours of meetings on the computer, and just taking that break that I need to get outside. If I don't go for that extra walk because it's raining outside or something, I spend some extra time with my child who's also home on online education. Making sure she's doing okay and checking in on her. And so that's really how I've been really taking some extra time and just really taking some deep breaths and not having the TV on 24/7 listening to COVID-19 coverage. It's not the way to survive this.
I would echo what Nicole was doing as well, taking a walk. I think my dogs have become used to being out much more often than there have been prior to this situation. The TV has been off all day as well because I don't need to hear that ongoing noise at this point. And I've been doing a lot of reading, just trying to go into another world, so to speak, and try and escape what's been happening so I can have some downtime in between, and doing a lot of Zoom meetings with friends from across the country, keeping in touch in ways that we hadn't done as previously because we didn't feel the need to do so. And that's been really helpful as well.
So I will jump in. So one of the things I've been doing is having fun with Zoom backgrounds, just because I enjoy kind of messing with technology. I'm going to echo a lot of what other folks have said. So I think you may have just heard bells in the background. That means our back door just opened for the dogs. So they're loving this because my youngest dog, I guess, is a lab pit bull mix and just would be outside all the time. So every 15 minutes she's going to the door and scratching at it. So she's enjoying it. Beyond that, I'll echo a lot of what was said already. So spending time outside. I'm a big backyard guy. And so whenever I look at it, there's like 7 projects I want to get done all at once. So trying to do that while still maintaining social distancing and not running out to the local hardware store, sitting outside during like a sunrise or a sunset and just relaxing, as well as, you know, binge watching some things, and most importantly, spending time with my daughter. That's one of the things that I'm trying to keep in my mind, is that this is time that I wouldn't normally have ever gotten to spend around her. And so she's a 2-year-old, so that can kind of be a positive and a negative when it comes to conference calls. But it definitely is time that I never would have had. So I try to keep conscious of that.
So one thing I would also say is, like, for myself, I'm a huge music fan. And so, you know, for me personally, I don't have the option of doing the walks just because I'm a high risk person. So my social distancing is my apartment. So what I've been doing is I've been using Spotify. I've been talking to friends about things. I've been putting things out on social media like, hey, I'm looking for new music. What do you guys have? And so people literally throw everything at me. A friend told me to listen to bluegrass the other day. I tried it. And so, you know, just doing those type of things that bring you joy. I think it's also important for people to take moments to enjoy videos, right? This is the best time to binge your Netflixes, your Hulus and whatnot. Disney Plus is dropping movies that were supposed to be in theaters, and now they're coming to us. And I think the other big thing too is just use the resources that are available to you. So I think for me, I know I've been looking up stuff for students, and some of that stuff has been helpful for me. Like there's one website, virusanxiety.com, and they have a whole host of different resources. And then they even have a thing that if you look at the top of the page, it says take a break. And as you're taking the break, it basically has a whole bunch of different resources there. So like virtual tours of national parks, videos of nature, suggestions on different art stuff. And just trying to do all those things to keep my mind at peace, and creating a routine has been the biggest thing for me, which includes, you know, dressing for work even though I'm at home, and creating those boundaries, those mental boundaries.
So transitioning back to the first question a little bit, if there are students who are looking for more information about some of the resources we talked about earlier, where would be the best place to find those resources? And full disclosure, any of the resources we talked about, I'll try to make sure get into the YouTube description below for people to be able to click on for ease of access.
So I'm actually going to, if it's all right, I'm going to share my screen and walk students through this.
By the way, my water bottle is green, so apparently I'm drinking directly from the harbor. Don't know how safe that is.
That might be a problem.
Yeah.
All right. So if you were to go to the University of Baltimore's main website, let me see if I can get this minimized there. All right. If you go to the main website, what you will see on there is a yellow banner that's talking about COVID response and more information. Click that. And on here, there's going to be a link underneath in the middle of the page saying UB's Information Hub. If you click that, that should bring up everything that you have for resources for COVID-19, anything that you want to know about. So for faculty, that means online preparedness guide. For students, it's their online preparedness guide, so general helpful hints, and then also information. So if you click the student information during COVID-19's outbreak, it's going to take you to another web page. And on here is literally everything that you need to know that will be updated bi-weekly for the most part, of different resources available to students. So it's going to go over all of the different offices and who you can contact. It's going to go over what is available for each college. It's going to go over, as Vice President Marano said, you know, we're all
you got
open.
Promoted too.
I mean, sorry, Associate Vice President.
No worries.
Yes.
We got to have a little fun on this.
Yes, yes. And so on here is the student resource list. And on here is all of those links I had mentioned earlier. So low income, cheap internet for those who qualify, the clinic lists for the city, the food banks through the school systems and the park and rec, and then also the current links for all of the major utility companies that serve Maryland across the board of what they're doing and how they're adjusting. And so all of this is available to students at any time that they need to access it. And like I said, it will be updated periodically throughout the semester.
Anything else anybody would add to that? Because that was pretty comprehensive.
Exactly what I was going to share is those
Yeah.
two web pages in particular, talking about the off-campus resources for students, as well as the on-campus resources. Like I said earlier, by and large, all of our offices and support services are up and running just in a virtual environment, and we're one email away.
I want
So,
to hold on. I
go
want to
ahead.
jump in and go back to something Nicole said earlier that I thought was a really good point, which is not to be watching television 24/7 and the coverage. And this also, I think, applies to social media. We're in an age where we're incredibly connected, and so obviously the information that's coming out is important, but you also have this faucet that's always running. And so stopping to take the time to realize and like recognize your symptoms of maybe it's too much to take in. Like for me, I can always feel it, and like the sign for me is that I will just be hopelessly scrolling through social media, and like I don't even know what I'm looking for, but like that's the signal to me that I'm like, okay, I need to disconnect from this. And so being conscious of those nonverbal cues your body is often giving you, that maybe it's time to walk away from that for a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah. So I guess as we're working through this, one of the big things that I wanted to know everyone, what everyone here is doing is, what is the biggest challenge working remotely for you? And more importantly, what are some solutions that you've come up thus far?
I think your solution, Tony, that you mentioned earlier about getting a schedule, establishing a routine. I noticed the first week for me, even though I typically telework twice a month anyway. I struggled that first week, and it was making sure that I had a space that I was comfortable in. I felt that first week I kept shifting rooms and moving. I just wasn't comfortable. I feel like I finally got there, and so I feel like by the time I'm having the schedule built in, like you said, dressing, maybe not as fancy as I would to go to work. I'm not wearing a suit jacket, but I look presentable, and just making sure that breakfast, lunch, and dinner is occurring about the same time. Making sure too that we all shut down at a certain time. I am probably not the best example of that, but I've been trying to make sure I give myself a certain time at night to say, okay, I can't feel on all the time. It's not healthy for us to feel on all the time. Sometimes that time may be 5:30. Other times for me, it might be 7:30, but not doing anything else for work after that time. That's been a challenge for me, but I feel as though I've gotten a little bit better each day that passes.
I would say the struggle for me is, folks at UB know, I am a people person. And as much as we all disparage too many meetings, I enjoy the meetings per se because it means I'm with people. I'm an extrovert in regards to how I think things through, how I like to interact with people. And this has been a struggle not to have that ability to get up from my desk chair and walk down the hall and to get, to pick someone's brain, or to just pick up a phone and hope someone's in their office, or to go around campus and to meet with people. So and then lack of student interaction. That's been really difficult. I know that this is why we're doing it, and I totally support the reasons behind it, but that's been the hardest part. So again, trying to keep touch with the students as soon as I hear from them. I am sending our students weekly emails just to say, hey, we're here. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to us. Don't hesitate. There's no question we can't try and figure out or resolve and help you with. But that's the hard part for me.
Yeah, mine is going to be similar to Nicole's in terms of figuring out when to turn off. One of the things that I had done a pretty good job of is kind of creating some boundaries when it comes to when I come home. Yeah, I may look at my email, but I'm going to try not to respond during outside of business hours unless it's something that's really important. And now, because like my office is now in my home, I think it becomes a bit more of a challenge. And so there have definitely been the occasional night where I'm responding to things later than I would like to be. And so trying to just be conscious of that and really designate that time for family time or time for myself. And so just, trying to be conscious of that.
I think Oh, sorry. I think one of the things that I've noticed for me is actually internet access. So where I live, we only have one provider for the area, and I'm noticing that their bandwidth has been overloaded. So there's been several times where the internet's cut out. And so I've had to make adjustments to that. And fortunately, I'm in a position where I can make those adjustments, but I can only imagine the challenges that other people and students are feeling right now. And in talking with some friends, I know for them the transition has been difficult for them working remotely because they have kids and they have more than one kid, and maybe they have kids at different ages all across the spectrum, and all their schools are asking them to basically transition to a full 8-hour work school day routine with all 4 kids, and then they have the responsibilities of their job, and on top of that they have to maintain the household, and maybe they're looking for a new job because they've lost it. And so I know I've had a couple of friends that have been working through that, and that's been very stressful for them, trying to make sense of that and keep up a routine. For them, I know some of the successes that they have is they have tried to create a very strict structure with their kids. And so they've actually sat their family down and wrote on a big giant piece of notepad and said, we're all waking up at this time. This is breakfast, and almost doing it like a proper charter school or a live at home prep school or something. And then so for other folks, it's being okay and giving themselves that permission to forgive themselves, because this is a difficult time. This is a time that not a lot of people haven't, no one has this experience before. This is all new. There is no normal because this isn't normal. And they've, been giving themselves permission to not be their best. And I think that's something that a lot of people have to work on when they're working remotely or they're making that transition, is they give themselves that kind of piece.
Completely agree. It was almost on cue. My child zoomed, mommed us in the background to get her worksheet off the printer.
No worries. But that's actually a good segue to our next question, which is, how are you being patient and kind to yourself right now, and any advice you would offer to the community about how they should be doing this?
I think Tony's advice was spot on just a few minutes ago. All of us are perfectionists. We want to do our best. And that first week when we were converting to telework, or even the second week, even now, giving ourselves a break, like Tony talked about, because I know the first day I came in and I was dressed like I was ready to go to work, and then something happened. The UPS guy came and he rang the doorbell. My dogs went berserk, and the president was on the Zoom call or the Zoom meeting. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. You know what? It's not the worst thing in the world. Shake it off. Everyone is going to have that experience at one point or another. And you know what? We just have to take a step back and really, in the grand scheme of things, is it really that big of a deal? And I would say no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have much to add. I think what Tony said and what Nicole just mentioned really is the best thing. I think the permission to forgive oneself, to accept that we're all in a limited, difficult situation is probably one of the best things someone can take to heart.
Yeah, and I think the added thing is we're all in this together, right? The 4 of us in this video are all into this together. The student community and all the colleges are together in this. The faculty have been making significant adjustments. And I think if we all come and approach this with an idea or a perspective of understanding and forgiveness, we will be okay. We will get through this. So, to the faculty that may be having difficulty adjusting to Zoom and having maybe difficulties with technology as you're trying to do your either synchronous or asynchronous learning, have that patience for them as they have the patience for you as you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I send in this discussion board question, or how do I do the breakout in Zoom, and figuring that out, or figuring out the technology for updating your computers, and knowing that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, there's going to be some give and take. And so people are going to be flexible with what happens within reason. And we have to understand that, just like Associate Vice President Marano said.
Demoted in the call too.
Oh, no.
Wah, wah.
Oh, I can't. I will get it right. AVP.
You got it right there. That was the correct one, but you had already given her a
okay.
before,
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You're good.
So I think the other piece too is we just demonstrated is having a good sense of humor too, right?
Mm-hmm.
About this whole situation, because humor is going to help, because at times you can only but laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I think, accept the the idea of like the wholeness of who you are. Like, I think one of the things that happens is we have this ability to compartmentalize our lives so often, where like, this is the professional Pavan, this is the family Pavan, and like the reality is that's all one guy. It's weird to talk about myself in the third person. I have to acknowledge that. But like, the reality is that this is forcing us to kind of look at that full spectrum and acknowledge all of that. And, you know, it's not something we're used to doing, but, you know, spending some time thinking about that and acknowledging that is probably a good thing for all of us.
So speaking of good things, what is one good piece of news that you would like to share in today's video? Something good to start off the week.
You know, I think just reflection on where we are right now, taking some time, giving yourself some time to reflect on where we are. You know, there's so much bad that's going on. However, there are silver linings that can be found. There are really positive things. And what I've seen is the community in our UB community, as well as just the community in Baltimore and the state of Maryland, come together, rally around in the nation, people making masks, you know, for the medical care providers, people making donations to get the medical care providers and first responders meals because they're working long shifts. I think the time that we're able to spend with family, although sometimes we may get on each other's nerves, we may really just want to go out of the house and escape. Overall, that time, we should cherish that time together, because there may never be a time when we are able to spend so much time with our families. I think the fact that we're in a situation now, spring has started, is going to help all of our mindsets. This would not be fun to go through if it was in the middle of December or January. The fact that we're in April, it's going to be beautiful outside. I'm thankful for that. I'm also so thankful of the colleagues I have to work with, and that makes me want to wake up in the morning to help our students and to work with the awesome team that we have.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo again. I was just thinking spring. A lot of our peers, our students, our colleagues live with seasonal affective disorder, whether it's diagnosed or not, because we know after a few days of just nothing but dreary rain, we're all kind of down. And spring is the time to kind of reborn and growth, and all the grass is green, the flowers are starting to populate. But I think the other thing that's really helped me, and again, we talked about not being on a lot of TV time, but when I've been on the TV and the commercials, there's almost no commercial out there, or most of them are, change that around, that are really positive. They're just, we're in this together. It's a common theme you hear from a lot of the companies and organizations, and the speed of which they put those kinds of ads together. And they're not selling their product at that point. They're selling this camaraderie. They're selling this togetherness concept. That to me has been a really kind of keep me at ease, that I'm not having these people on TV screaming about this, that, and next thing of their product, but think this is about us and we need to get through this because we can.
I would offer something similar to Nicole's statement, which I feel like I'm doing all over this call. But there's a Mr. Rogers quote that's always about looking for the helpers. And so I think that particularly holds true to me. I'm going to add a different one. This is more about nature, but and this was a 2019 thing, but the hole in the ozone layer is the smallest that it's ever been after three decades of them monitoring it. And so that was obviously before COVID-19 kind of made its arrival, but it's still, you know, a real positive as we try to take care of the earth simultaneously. So.
Definitely.
So I am going to change it up real quick. And this is a kind of more of a fun question, but what's your favorite quarantine guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure.
I'd have to say video games at this point. I usually play a lot of video games on the weekends, but I've definitely been using that as my guilty pleasure. And so is my my partner, and she's finished a couple games that we usually don't have the time to finish. So that's been fun.
I'll throw out Tiger King being one of them currently, although that was like very early on because I couldn't look away. But
I want to take that on next. That's going to be my next goal is Tiger King.
if you need to talk, I'm here.
I would say one of my guilty pleasures has been my commute. Not having to get up and leave as early as I do to spend an hour and 20 minutes in the car just getting into work. That's going to be a really difficult thing to break when we finally are able to return to campus. The other piece I think is that we've had 2 weeks in a row, we've done virtual game night with our son, and our son who's with us here the house, but the one that lives in Columbus, Ohio, that we always spend several hours each Saturday night playing games virtually. And that's been a really nice thing that we wouldn't do for some other reasons. I can't say why not, but maybe it'll be something we continue with after this is over.
That's great, Karyn. I do echo what Karyn says. We have a similar commute, and you know, I think I've put up 1 tank of gas in the last month, which is never happens for me.
Oh, exactly.
So that has been very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely. So I guess one of the other questions I wanted to ask us today is, where do you find inspiration for the work that you do as you work remotely?
The students. We are still working with students every single day. Maybe their needs have changed. Some have stayed the same. Some are still struggling in certain areas, and connecting them with the resources. I just met with some leadership in SGA last week, and just, you know, getting their pulse, getting a sense of where they stand. What are their issues now? What are they hearing from their fellow students? And then going into action for the students, you know, making sure that they have what they need to be successful in this environment, advocating for, you know, the change or the option to have pass-fail grades, the opportunity for students to have the online services, online activities, online events, to celebrate them. So it's helping the students.
Yeah.
I think besides helping the students, I've heard from several faculty in the past couple of weeks as they're working on getting their courses into the online world, reaching out to make sure that they're covering and supporting our students in a way that they may not have had to think about previously, because it was us reaching out to them at that time, moving things forward. So that's been a really cool thing. And then the deepening of partnerships that we've had with certain offices on campus. We have a really strong partnership moving forward from this with the Center for Excellence in Learning, Teaching, and Technology. Some of the documentation they're providing to faculty and students has come from our office. And some of the input that they've had to request from us has been really helpful as they've prepared and helped our faculty. So that has been a real bonus for us.
I would have to say I've been pulling a lot of inspiration from witnessing firsthand the resiliency of our student body and everyone that is involved in the whole UB community. A lot of our students were experiencing various challenges before COVID-19 came in. And when COVID-19 came in, those challenges became maybe a little bit more severe, or they were added on to in the weight of that. And watching our students adjust to that, watching our students figure out solutions to that, and watching our students advocate for themselves has been a very humbling experience, but also a very inspirational one. And seeing how, despite what has been going on, they're still moving forward towards their goals. They're still looking towards that graduation date at the end of this semester, virtually or otherwise. They're still working towards finishing this semester strong. They're still working on identifying their practicum spots for the fall, for their internships, for their programs. And so despite everything that's been going on, you really do see the resiliency of the human spirit. And oftentimes that reminds me of other times that, you know, the university and the country as a whole has gone through tough times, historically speaking. And I think our students are a prime example in the shining light of that.
Yeah, I get to follow that. So obviously the students, I think for me, again, kind of echoing everybody, it's championing what the students need right now. Karyn and I were in a meeting together like a week ago, and I was just like lighting up the meeting with questions, and I was like, am I being too harsh? But it's like trying to make sure that there's a perspective there, so we're keeping it in mind and being conscious of everything that folks need. And, you know, just keep going. Like, I think for me, it's this notion of, you know, once we're past this, let's come back and be in a better position than we were before. And so kind of constantly keeping that in mind in terms of some of the things that we had, that we were working towards before the remote transition, and now trying to make sure that when we get back, those things are still kind of, you know, on pace to be in place, knowing that some things aren't going to be, but just trying to keep the ball rolling. Like, I'm a big consistency guy. So trying to just, you know, whether it be the schedule, all the balls you have in the air, just trying to keep them in the air as much as possible. And I know that that flies in the face of giving myself grace, but I'm managing that myself.
Well,
So
with that being said, I think, why don't we close with just one last message you really hope to share with the UB community? What is one thing that you want everyone to know?
Stay strong. We are going to get through this. We do not know the end, but we will, and nor will I predict that. I just stay strong and use your resources here. We are here for you, students. We want to help. We're an email away.
I would definitely have to echo that. Truly, we are just an email away. We are a phone call away. If the wind blows the right way, send some smoke signals. I might be able to see it down south. But please know that the university continues to share resources to help get you through this difficult time. And we will continue to do so moving forward.
That's good.
yeah, I would just say be kind to yourself, and every day is a new opportunity to attempt that, because some days it'll be harder, but you can get there. And with that,